So I know it's been almost a year since we posted, and to be fair, we are all very busy with life. This is just a hobby for us. That being said, what the heck? I mean, thanks guys, but geez. Also, yes, I know the audio on the Limbo video was very weird. I might go back and fix it if I can be bothered, but with all that in mind, I want to make the third installment in my Warframe overviews with my second favorite frame, Gauss. He became one of my favorite frames for two reasons. First and foremost, the speed. And second, his entire kit is useful as opposed to some frames where I forget they have four abilities. Looking at you, Necros. But you all have waited long enough for content, so on to what Gauss does. Gauss's passive is a battery on the lower right hand corner of the screen that builds up as Gauss moves and builds up faster for the faster that he moves. It also builds up and depletes with the use of Gauss's abilities, and I will cover that as we go on. Additionally, as the battery builds up, it influences his abilities as well as the rate that his shield recharges. Last note, Gauss's battery is at 80% when it hits the red marker on the UI, so bear that in mind for later. Mach Rush is likely the ability you grabbed Gauss for. You press it and Gauss runs. Holding it will cause Gauss to continue running and draining energy as he goes. Each enemy in Gauss's path will be knocked down as he hits them like a deer in the road. Hitting a wall will damage all enemies around Gauss, and for the people who like to go fast, the speed scales off sprint speed, not ability strength. Mach Crash is an augment for Mach Rush, where slamming into walls pulls enemies to the point of impact. Not much else to be said other than it gives them a cheaper CC than what will be covered later on. Personally, I don't use it, but if it works for your build, I'm not going to say that it's wrong. Kinetic Plating is Gauss's primary survival tool. This reduces incoming damage equal to his battery percentage. It will only protect from physical damage as well as heat, cold, and blast. Additionally, each hit takes away Gauss's battery by a small portion. Now, I know what you may think. It sounds like quite a lot of downsides, which is why he has some other benefits to it. First is that each time he takes damage, he gains energy in return. Second, while kinetic plating is active, he gains battery by doing melee attacks. Lastly, while kinetic plating is active, wall slams from Mach Rush inflict slash procs. For this reason, I would say you should always have it active to take advantage of those passive benefits. Thermal Sunder is an ability most Gauss players would say is his best ability, which I can't disagree with. It is a strong ability with a lot to it. When you tap the ability, Gauss saps heat from the area, charging his battery and creating a field of cold damage. Layering a second cold field will freeze enemies inside. Holding the ability button has Gauss release heat to create a field of heat damage and drain his battery at the same time. Layering two fields of heat does extra damage. Lastly, layering cold and heat on each other creates a field of blast damage. It sucks in enemies to the center and pushes them outwards based on what field was placed last, blasting away with cold, then fire, then pulling them close with fire, then cold. If that wasn't enough, Mach rushing through a field will carry its damage to the rush and the wall slam. If that isn't enough for Thermal Sunder, he gets an augment called Thermal Transfer that gives him bonus damage in the form of heat, cold, or blast, depending on what you cast. Not much else to say about it, other than it does scale with power strength, allowing you to get crazy high damage buffs. Last but not least, Redline. Redline increases Gauss's fire rate, attack speed, reload speed, and casting speed, all proportionate to his battery level. Speaking of, his battery can now fill up to 100%, allowing for more scaling on thermal sunder and kinetic plating. If that wasn't enough of a boost, he also releases bolts of energy, and his other abilities gain a boost for the duration. Mach Rush gains increased efficiency, Kinetic Plating now provides a boost to melee damage, and Thermal Sunder now only requires one cold cast to freeze, one heat cast to do max damage, and the blast combo can now strip armor proportionate to his battery. His battery now depletes while it's active, and also starts a new counter that, once full, prevents battery depletion for the remainder of Redline. And this counter fills faster the higher his battery level is. The counter also determines how much battery Gauss keeps when the red line ends. with 100% meaning he keeps up to 80% of his battery. This also is best to have on at all times as it just increases the effectiveness of every other ability. With all of his abilities gone over, how do you play him? Like my other videos, this will just be my tips and tricks, but other people might say how to play him otherwise. Gauss benefits most as a gunslinger or a weapons platform frame. Kinetic plating and Redline in his base kit showcase this, but thermal transfer lets him take it even further. Gauss's signature weapons also encourage you to play fast and reckless, as both of them are explosive weapons, one of which will not detonate unless the user is out of the blast zone, and the other having homing missiles. Both of them allow Gauss specifically to reload faster while sprinting. Keep moving is the name of the game with Gauss, though that isn't because he's squishy. Gauss is as if an armored truck and a Formula One were fused together to make a high speed tank. Speaking of speed, for you adrenaline junkies, Hellman the Firewalker onto Gauss for a fast and somehow functional kit. It works especially well since it has roughly the same duration as Kinetic Plating and Redline, allowing you to turn on all three and forget they exist. Put Firewalker's Pyroclastic Flow Augment on, and Gauss can build up damage with his Afterburn before releasing a massive wave of damage on some unfortunate corpus. To end it off, Gauss is just a really fun frame to play. If you're a fan of characters like Flash or Quicksilver, you're probably going to enjoy Gauss. Just do people a favor, don't mention Gauss's speed to Volt mains. You've had enough of that argument to last a lifetime. This was a much lower effort video than the Limbo overview, as I didn't want to delay this one any further. Also, because I just wasn't feeling motivated to try and do all the editing that I did for the Limbo one. Also, since the gap between the Limbo video and this one was so huge, I'll make a deal. If this gets at least 5,000 views before March, I will work on the next overview immediately. It shows us that you guys actually watch our content. As for fixing the audio on the Limbo one, maybe if this one blows up like that one did. And with that, I'll see you all later. Goodbye.